Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. We're going to be talking about England and Gareth Southgate today because this video is obviously brought about because of, and obviously being talked about because of, England's humiliating defeat to Hungary last night, in which the Three Lions lost 4-0 at Molineux. So technically England's home ground, their biggest home defeat in 94 years. That was pretty embarrassing to say the least. We're going to be talking about England, we're going to be talking about Gareth Southgate, where they go from here, how it looks going forward, and looking at the World Cup and stuff, and all of that kind of stuff. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and would be greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get into the video because this is a very interesting video for me. Because I'll say right off the bat, I don't really care for England. I've not really cared for England for a while. I cast my eye over international football, but sometimes I might watch the Germans play, or I might watch the Spanish play, or I might watch just someone else rather than England. I will cast my eye over the occasional England game from time to time, but I kind of broaden my football horizon a little bit by watching another team play. Maybe there's a Liverpool player that's playing, say Virgil van Dijk's playing in the Dutch squad or something. Maybe I'll watch that instead. But sometimes I will watch England just to see how they're doing. And last night was embarrassing. Last night was humiliating. Last night was god awful because the performance was poor, the result was poor, and at the full-time whistle there was a chorus of boos and whistles and chants of you don't know what you're doing and you're getting sacked in the morning. And yeah, a lot of that was England fans, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Hungarian fans were also like that, because last night was pretty much easy for them, and last night they were probably enjoying and reveling in England's misery of losing 4-0 in the UEFA Nations League. Of course, the mighty and prestigious Nations League, the Nations League that was set to revolutionise European international football. Yeah, done a great job of that. No one else cares. No one does care. It's a competition in which we couldn't care less about. But at the same time, in saying that, whilst we don't care about it, it's not to say that this isn't alarming in any sort of way. There's a World Cup on the horizon after all. There's a World Cup at the end of the year, so this is quite alarming at the same time as not being alarming, if that makes sense. Like, we don't care for this competition, but with the way that things have turned around in recent weeks, it is quite alarming in that sense. Because before these games kicked off at the end of the club season, we were sat here saying that England were one of the favourites to go on and win the World Cup in Qatar. We were here saying that England had a very good chance of making it far in the World Cup, despite obviously having a manager that I don't fully trust and have full belief in. But with the way that the international stage and international football is run, England would have a very good chance of making it to some of the final, the semi-final, the final, making it far in the competition basically. But it's funny how things can change in a matter of weeks, because within the space of 2 weeks or so, England have played 4 games and haven't won in any of those 4. They haven't even scored a goal from open play in that time. They've scored the 1 goal in the 1-1 draw with Germany, a very fortuitous penalty in the dying minutes of the game. So that doesn't quite make for great reading, does it? It's a completely different feel around this England squad right now to what it was before. Before, like I say, many people were saying that England were one of the favourites to go on and win the tournament in Qatar at the end of the year. And now many people are questioning whether Gareth Southgate's the right man for the job, whether this England squad are good enough to go on and win in Qatar. And I gotta say that if you lose twice in a matter of weeks to Hungary, you're probably not going to win it. And it's a very different feel to what we've known this England, to how people have spoken about this England squad before, with obviously how well they've done in recent major tournaments, getting to the semi-final of the last World Cup, getting to the final of the European Championships, and so on and so forth. Many people were quick to make excuses with these games that have obviously been played out. I remember last week when England lost 1-0 to Hungary, that Southgate came out after the game and said that the heat played its part in the Hungary game being played in Hungary, and said that obviously that was a major factor as to why England lost. And I remember sat here thinking, you know what, that's kind of fair. I guess if you're not used to the climate and whatever, then, you know, maybe that is a bit of a challenge in itself. But then I thought, where is the World Cup being hosted again? Qatar. I looked up Qatar and Budapest. The temperature right now in Budapest will be at a similar or higher level in Qatar than what it is right now in Budapest. Even in winter, Qatar will be at a similar or higher temperature. That is not looking good already, several months away from the World Cup, that if England can't handle the heat in Budapest, they're not going to be able to handle the heat in Qatar. It's just baffling to me that you come out with that kind of excuse several months before the World Cup is being hosted in Qatar. Like, I know many people have said that obviously Qatar, including myself, that Qatar being hosted there, the World Cup, is just a terrible, terrible idea, and I completely agree, but it's FIFA, money talks, whatever, we're just going to have to deal with it. So already it's not looking good for when the World Cup comes around at the end of the year. Many people then stated it was tiredness, and to be fair, at the end of a very long and kind of drawn out season, it is understandable as to why people would make that excuse. But I'm sorry, like, whilst draws to Italy and Germany can happen often, 2 defeats in a row to Hungary definitely cannot happen. I don't care what England team is put out, I don't care who is the manager, I don't care. 2 defeats in a row to Hungary just cannot happen, but it happened. So I don't know, I don't understand why. I don't understand why this was happening, but it did happen. It did happen. Look, I'll be honest, I don't really care for the national side. I don't really care for the Nations League. The Nations League is boring and terrible, and a terrible idea, and these are just glorified friendlies. I've not cared about the England national squad for a while. I will cast my eye over it, like I say, I will watch it, but at the same time, I will get more emotional and I'll get more upset over Liverpool losing than I do England losing. I just do not have my heart and soul placed into the England national side anymore, simply for the reason that I just don't care for international football that much. I don't care for England that much under Gareth Southgate, and I don't think he's the right man for the job. I know they've been doing well in tournaments in recent years, but you can only beat what's in front of you, and I understand that completely. But England have been rather fortuitous in terms of the knockout stages of competitions, that they've had quite an easy run into the World Cup semi-final and to the European Championship final as well. I think they've been rather fortuitous, and I think they've been pretty lucky at times as well. I understand that you have, like I say, you have to beat what's in front of you, but I've just never been completely on board or sold on the whole Gareth Southgate's England kind of thing. This is a very talented squad of players that he has at his disposal, especially in key areas, right back, central midfield, across the forward line. There are a number of very good players within this England squad that I completely understand, but I just don't believe that they're being unlocked to their full potential, because we have a manager who's restricting them with a more defensive style of play and with basic style, if you like. Take the right back situation, for example. Take that situation, because this one always drives me crazy whenever I see the team sheet. We as an England squad are very fortunate and unfortunate at the same time to have 3 of the best right backs in world football, in my opinion. You can't play all 3 at the same time, but God forbid, Southgate does try his hardest to try and just shoehorn all 3 of them into the same squad. And then he throws Kieran Trippier in there as well sometimes. He has this obsession with playing Kyle Walker as a right centre-back, and I get it, because Kyle Walker has the pace to kind of cover the likes of Reece James and Trent Alexander-Arnold for them going forward. But it just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work. Like, I think there are better options out there at centre-back. I don't think Kyle Walker's the best centre-back to have him playing there. That's why Kyle Walker plays at right back for his club and not at right centre back. He can play at centre. I've seen him play at centre back, but he's not the most reliable. I don't think. I don't think he's the best at it, and that's why I see him play Reece James at right wing back, Trent Alexander-Arnold at left wing back. You know, people may say that there's not much difference in being a right back or a right wing back, but there is a difference in terms of the way that you're meant to play, and that's why Reece James plays as a right wing back for Chelsea, and Liverpool play Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back in a back four. James is used to playing in a back five, Trent's in a back four, Kyle Walker's used to playing as a right back in a back four. It's just him shoehorning these players into the kind of mold he wants them to take. There's also the criticism I have against him, which is him picking players that have played well for England in the past, but may not be in the best form for their club. In the past, the likes of Raheem Sterling, obviously Harry Maguire, Jordan Pickford, and even Harry Kane have all been seen as being selected by Southgate, despite the fact that they're not in the best form for their club, or they're just needing some sort of rest or break from football in general to get back to obviously the right kind of rest and relaxed mentality. Southgate said he wouldn't do this. He said that he would obviously pick players based on their performances and their form, but of course has gone back on his word on multiple occasions. Compare this to the Netherlands squad as just one prime example, and look at the likes of Gini Wijnaldum. He was named as a flop, the flop of the season in the French league this year, when he obviously moved from Liverpool to PSG on a free transfer. And despite obviously turning up for his country on numerous occasions and scoring plenty of goals and actually putting in some very good performances for Netherlands across the past few years or so, he was dropped from the Netherlands squad for these kinds of games. So, you know, when you compare it to that, you've got to say that Southgate has obviously gone back on his word on multiple occasions, especially when you see that earlier in the season, the likes of Harry Kane. I know he's an important player, and I know he's a very good player on his day, but he wasn't in the best form, and he looked like he did need some sort of rest or something to clear his head, but that wasn't coming with the international breaks that we had constantly at the beginning of the season. But it's led to this point now where we're questioning whether Southgate is the right man for the job. And I've been questioning it for a while, but many people are starting to catch on now that obviously 4 games, a streak of 4 games without a win has kind of led to this point now where we're looking at it going, who will replace Southgate? And obviously it's probably not going to happen right now because he's just signed a new contract, I believe. So if this downward spiral does continue, maybe the FA may have a decision to make. Who would replace him? I'm always under the belief that an England manager should manage the England team the same way that a Spanish manager should manage a Spanish team, or a German manager should manage the German team, or a Uruguayan manager should manage the Uruguayan team, or whatever it may be. Obviously, like an obsession of Lord Voldemort, Graham Potter, his name gets mentioned around a lot in these kinds of conversations. I wouldn't mind seeing Graham Potter be manager of England, because I think he's got a good style of play, good attacking approach, and I actually like his style of football. I think he's a very, very good young up-and-coming manager. I just don't think that maybe it's his time, and I think that he's got a lot more to do at Brighton, and maybe even step up later down the line to maybe go to like maybe an Arsenal or something along them lines, maybe in the near future. I think he's got a bit more work to do as a manager. But knowing the FA, they'll probably go for like the under-21 manager, Lee Carsley. He's probably going to be the next England manager after Southgate, whenever Southgate is going to be removed from his position by himself or by the FA. Or maybe someone currently out of work, maybe like a Sean Dyche or something. And then we've got like a period of time where we're going to be watching England just lump balls up to whoever big target man we've got at our disposal, whoever that may be. But let's say that the FA decide to surprise us. Let's say that the FA decide to go for someone outside of that sort of England pool. Let's say, because let's face it, that pool of England managers is pretty uninspiring or underwhelming. Beyond Graham Potter, there are some unproven managers so far, the likes of Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard, that could obviously still become something, but it's way too early for them to take on such a big responsibility and a big role. And then there are the established managers like your Steve Bruce's and your Sean Dyche's and all that kind of stuff that are obviously just very uninspiring and underwhelming. Let's say that the FA decide to branch further out, and maybe they don't go for my idea of an England manager managing the England squad. Let's say they go for a foreign manager to manage the England squad. I would be so intrigued. I've always been intrigued by Arsene Wenger, but it seems like the ship has sailed for Wenger and that he won't be returning to football management. I've always been intrigued by Jose Mourinho. I don't know what it is, but I think Jose Mourinho as England manager would be very interesting, very intriguing, and would be pretty exciting to watch. I think he would put some fun back into maybe watching England again. I don't know, because of just the character that he is. I don't know what it is, but it would be interesting to me if they did branch out and maybe be a bit ambitious. I think his style of play is a bit outdated, but maybe on the international stage it could work. I don't know. The international stage is very different from the club stage of things, so that could be very interesting to watch going forward. But these are just some of my thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, on the England squad and Gareth Southgate in particular. I want to know what you guys think. What did you make of England and Gareth Southgate, especially last night and across these past couple of weeks? What do you think has happened? What do you think has changed? What are your criticisms or your positive thoughts on Southgate and England going forward, or looking back over his reign as manager? I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, down below in the comment section, because it's short, it'll make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way out if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new. I want to see more content like this. Both things always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see you all again soon in another video.